For this episode of Storytellers, I'm at Kingswell Glen Golf Course in Petrolia, where I'm going to be sitting down with Jenna Gorzeman, who's one of the owners here. She has a great story. She's done a lot in the town of Petrolia with a number of different businesses, and I think she's going to provide a really great, unique perspective into being a young entrepreneur in today's market. Hope you enjoy. On this episode of Storytellers, I'm sitting down with Jenna Gorzeman from Kingswell Glen Golf Course. Jenna, I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out and allowing us to come onto your beautiful course and your little hidden gem you got here on the course to do the recording today. Jenna, I'm going to start every episode with all of them. Tell us your story.
Okay, so
don't,
story.
Don't leave any pieces
don't
out,
leave
because
any,
you got a pretty great story.
The whole story?
Yes, the
okay,
whole story.
So I was born, no, just okay. So I actually moved to Petrolia when I was 2.5 years old with my family. I grew up on a chicken farm just outside of town, doing broiler breeders. So I definitely have a very strong agricultural background and really identify with those agricultural roots. I grew up, like I said, just outside of Petrolia. I went to elementary school and high school here in town. That's where I met my husband, although our romance didn't start in high school. We were great friends and then got together later.
Took a bit of a detour.
Like the most exciting things.
Right.
It's not a direct route, but so yes, we live here in town. I own Krabby Joe's here in town, only for a little bit longer, but opened that 10 years ago when I was 23, fresh out of university. I was very motivated to develop downtown Petrolia.
Take on the world,
I'd always had this dream of building a hotel in Petrolia. This was like my childhood dream, and I'm not really sure where it came from. Having the agricultural background, it doesn't really align, you know, but it's something that I always really felt like compelled to do, was build a hotel in Petrolia. So when I was in university, I went to the University of Guelph for hotel and food administration, with the idea of coming back and building up downtown Petrolia. So again, why? I don't really know, other than the fact that it was a wonderful place to grow up, to live, and I recognize that I find a lot of value being close to my family. My family, they're all in this area as well. So it's pretty great. So the plans are in the works for the hotel, which is really exciting. We are slowed down a little bit with it given the current circumstances. We actually have permitted drawings and everything ready to go for Main Street.
So all the hard part's done now.
All the hard part, exactly. All the heavy lifting, well, kind of the hard part is done. The whole building of the hotel thing has to happen, but it seems that that's going to take a bit of time given the prices of all supplies and that type of thing.
Exactly.
It's just not really realistic. But it'll be there when it's time. And then the opportunity to buy the golf course came up in April 2020. It actually came up for sale the year before, and my husband and I put an offer in on it, and it didn't happen, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because I was actually pregnant at the time with our third son. And at that time, when he was born, we had 3 children, 3 and under, so it was maybe a little
just a few things going on.
Maybe
in
a little
hotel and a hotel in the works.
That's
and a restaurant.
Right, exactly. So they didn't take our offer, thankfully, and the following year it came up for sale again, and we were able to work a deal with the owners to make it happen.
Perfect.
It was only 6 weeks after COVID hit in April of 2020. Exactly, the lockdowns and all that crazy stuff. Not so much. But this golf course is just special. There's something here that it's such a gem, and it is just almost part of the heartbeat of our community. And so for us, it was really, really important looking at what we're trying to accomplish on Main Street in Petrolia, building the business and kind of revitalizing it a little bit to bring it, help restore it to how, I suppose it's former glory. It had been a really robust place here back in the 1890s.
Absolutely,
right?
When you see the old write-ups and the old news articles and stuff like that. That's right.
It's cool, and I feel like living in Canada, we don't really get the opportunity to interact with history in a really meaningful way. So to be here, to have grown up here, and to have this rich history in right where we live, I think is such a gift. So really hoping to be able to continue honoring that and really building the foundation of the business on that history and growing from there. So so I suppose that's professionally. Like I said, I've got 3 children. They're now 5, 3 and 1, and I think that's kind of my like there's so much more,
Sure.
but without going down any crazy rabbit holes, we'll leave it at that.
So why the golf course? Why then? What kind of led you to that, thinking that this is where you wanted to end up, or this was your next endeavor by the sounds of things? It may not be the last by any means.
It was just like it was too good to be true. Honestly.
Oh, yeah?
So I, growing up on a farm, I'm really accustomed to having a lot of space and loving being in nature, and really that spaciousness is something that I crave. So we live on Main Street in Petrolia, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But again, with 3 little children, I was really like wanting more space.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, when the golf course came available, I'm like 164 acres in the middle of town.
We won't build a play set. We'll buy a golf course.
Right. Exactly. Right. And like I said, like knowing that the alternative, like it had been for sale, it didn't go well. The previous deal hadn't gone to plan, and the golf course was really in disrepair. And like I said, with knowing that we're hoping to revitalize Main Street, letting this gem just go didn't seem to make sense. So my husband is a golf fanatic, and he just, the other day he looked at me, he's like, I am golf. That's great. So the golf course really, as far as like golf operations and that type of thing, that's his bread and butter. And I love the business side of things.
Sure.
So the business development, that's really where I have the experience and the passion. And so that's why we did the golf course. Family and community, and definitely like
opportunity.
An opportunity to expand, for sure.
Cool. So what's a day-to-day look like running a golf course? I don't think there's too many people that really understand that.
Yeah, especially these days, right?
Exactly.
It's been weird.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. It's a crazy wild ride.
Sure.
So for me, I'm here just in overseeing, making sure everything is going well on a day-to-day basis. So like we only had it for a year. So to be able to benchmark and kind of compare what I should be doing on a day-to-day basis is still kind of a little unclear, because we're in startup mode still, but based on the experiences from last year, really understanding what it is, like what are the jobs that need to be done, who should be doing them, bringing all of that information together, and this year having been able to prepare and hire a head pro and hire like the managers in an office, like just those people that I didn't
build in the foundation.
That's
basically.
right, exactly. It's a lot of foundational building. So, and it's my first time really doing it in this way. So it's definitely like, it's not clear and easy, but it's really exciting, and I like the challenge. Cool. So. Yeah.
Talk about what it's like working with your husband every day. We briefly talked before we started recording here about that endeavor. I know personally, I love my wife. I know she's probably not watching, but I'm going to throw it on there. But I couldn't work with her every day. So tell me how that dynamic works.
It's certainly not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And it's challenging because it can be really difficult to set boundaries and to understand where work ends and family life begins, but I did grow up on a family farm, and I do have a lot of experience with this whole working with your family
dynamic
thing. Exactly. So before this, before getting into restaurants and so on, I did work with my family on the farm in a very real way, and so I recognize how important it is to make sure that the lines of communication there are open, because it can really get to be a mess.
That's a good point.
In a hurry. So again, it's not like it's not perfect, but we're so much better together, and it's worth figuring out how to do it.
Sure.
Because it just adds so much value and a really like unique texture.
Yeah, it's almost like, and I don't know if I've met with anybody on a Storytellers episode that's been in a partnership, like a formal business partnership, and from my past experience in that world, it's understanding, having clear boundaries of expectations and responsibilities, I think is a good thing to look at there too. As long as there's not a whole lot of overlap, I think they can be very successful, and everybody brings their own set of skills to the table. Really makes a world of difference. But then, layering on the fact that you can't just leave it at work and go home, I think that's a whole different piece to consider. So
it's definitely really led me to a greater level of self-awareness.
I
found, because in order for me to be able to achieve the things that I know we can achieve here, especially, I just need to figure it out, and I need to get my head on my shoulders.
And even make concessions. Like if it's something that isn't your bag, to understand that's a weakness that we need to fill. And it's
It's really getting over ego
100%.
You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just recognizing, okay, like I'd love to be able to do this.
Yeah.
I want to provide all of the things that I can provide, but if
Yeah.
it's just not within me, then I'm just going to have to be honest about that. And this is
That's right.
the beauty about working with a partner.
Yeah.
And especially Joe. Again, we've got
Yeah.
a really wonderful relationship. That he understands that and he honors that, and he cares about me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
But even as a business owner, I think you nailed it there, and it's a topic that nobody really talks about, is having that self-awareness and putting the ego aside and understanding that, you know, I'm not good at this, I don't love this, I need to move on from this. I had a similar experience a few years ago where I just realized I wasn't a great manager. I have a great team, they're good at what they do, but I'm really terrible at managing everybody at once, and I don't enjoy it. So I bring in great managers to oversee them, and it makes a whole world of difference to allow me to kind of work on the things that I enjoy doing and that I can bring most value to the table doing too. So
I think that's a really good point. And you kind of forget that when you're in the thick of it, right? Because when you're transitioning from being able to do a solo act and do all the things, do all the bookwork, do all the schedule, do everything, and then you grow to this point where you just can't be relied on to do it.
Exactly.
Somebody needs to be relied upon to do it. And who do you get to do that? It's definitely it has been out of my experience level. So
Comfort
it's
zone.
definitely. But again, like knowing that it's really like there's so much power there when you can just recognize what it is, like where your shortfalls are. Really,
and it can allow you to grow that much faster too in the business, right?
Yeah.
To kind of divide and conquer and focus on where you bring the most value, basically.
Exactly.
So,
And I think as business owners, we do forget that. We do forget that it's not our responsibility. Like we don't have to be amazing at everything. This is the power of the team.
Exactly.
And I always say teamwork makes the dream work. I know it's so corny, but my 5-year-old said it to me the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh,
that's
thank
a win.
you.
That's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about culture and how important culture is within building a team, especially in what you're doing here. What's the culture like at the golf course? What do you do to kind of instill it? Talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, so we're definitely in the midst of building,
establishing
the culture. Yeah, absolutely. So I recognize how important it is to have a really strong foundation, like you said, and really everything can flow from there. So I want people to feel supported at work. I want people to feel really comfortable in expressing who they are.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I've always said that people need to love coming to work. This is where they spend most of their time. You know, a lot of the time, if you're working full time at a place, you're spending more time at work than you are with your family. So having a nice supportive place where you feel like love and kindness, to me, that's number one, because that's what I'm seeking in my everyday interactions. Is really an environment where I feel supported to grow. And so that's something that I'm always fostering with my employees, asking, you know, how are you doing, and are you enjoying what you're doing, and like where would you like to learn and grow, and where would you like to see changes, and how do you think we can make this better? Because I recognize that I don't have all the answers.
Exactly.
I'm not doing their jobs. I'm really relying on them to be able to give me the information that I need to be able to make the decisions to move forward. Because ultimately they're the ones doing the job, but I'm the one who has to make the decisions to make it move.
Kind of a nice balance.
Exactly. So it's really like a constant feedback thing. And right now I don't have I don't have it formally set up. It's just like inherent in weekly manager meetings and that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm guessing some of the skills you've learned and developed with the restaurant are translating well over here.
Very much so. Yeah. So at 23, having a staff of 50 people, I was way in over my head. I spent a lot of time crying in the freezer. I bet. Actually, thank goodness for walk-in freezers at restaurants where my face wouldn't go as red when I came out of the freezer. So,
What are some of the things you learned in, you know, owning a business and managing a team like that young, that you were able to kind of build and bring with you over to this endeavor?
So many things.
Endless
things. And really it was like the employee management, then also just working with people, like working with guests and customers and members, like all like that whole realm of understanding, like there's a certain way to be able to approach things to get a really great result. And so figuring out what that is and really being open and humble, like those are key building blocks.
I think there's some uniqueness there too of with your background in hospitality, bringing it into a golf course, like I'm sure there's a hospitality component here, but you might have a different insight to be able to elevate that hospitality approach in a somewhat traditional setting as a golf course, right?
Yes.
Any thoughts on that, or any ideas that you can pull across?
Well, what we're doing here is really trying to, like, I don't know if we're trying to redefine it, but we are redefining it, you know? So it's really looking at what we've got, and given the fact that like all of the old way of doing things, like there isn't really an old way that is like relied upon anymore, given the changes globally, you know? I find that people are really open to looking at things in a different way. So we're really taking advantage of that and just and working around that here. So keeping things pretty limited and easy from like the hospitality food service side of things. But definitely when it comes to like the hospitality and guest services and making those connections and so on, it's been huge having that experience.
And this is one industry, I would say, that the golf course industry hasn't really changed much in the last 100 years, has it? In terms of the way they do things in the old school way, traditional mentality.
It's pretty entrenched in a lot of ways.
Having some young blood in this industry might shake things up a little bit too.
Yeah, so, and you know what? Like the recent interest in golf, given that it's only one of the only things to be able to do, we're having all sorts of people who are not traditional golfers, right? So they're coming to it with this new way of thinking. So it's a little easier. Like, again, it's people are almost primed for a change.
Evolution coming, it sounds
like.
Yes,
exactly. So and the opportunity to be here and to do have made different improvements and changed it. Even the existing members, people who've been here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, some of them, they're really like on board with the changes, which is it's really nice.
It's a little surprising, to be honest with you, in such a small town conservative world area we live in here. That they're open to change and open to new. That's cool.
We found that last year, that it was like one of the concerns was, everybody's going to think it was this way, and we want to make these changes, but will people be open to it? And it turns out yes.
Cool.
Yes, they are. So, and it's relearning things. So, and making new habits. So,
cool. So, being as busy as you are, Jenna, with what you got going on the golf course, and even I know you're exiting the restaurant, but still those responsibilities there. How do you achieve work-life balance, or is it a thing? And layer on top of that, how do you avoid burnout? Because again, you got a lot of irons in the fire right now, and sprinkle in a little pandemic and all that fun stuff that comes with it. It's a lot. I know that firsthand. It's a lot as a business owner. So, what are some tips, or what are some strategies you use?
Yeah, it is a lot. It is definitely a lot, and you don't really know it until you're in it, right? Absolutely. And then you're like, oh goodness, oh goodness, this is so much more than I expected.
That's a really nice way of putting it. I've used a lot more colorful language than
that.
Oh
wow, yeah, me too when I'm not on camera. But I have achieved a reasonable level of work-life balance by recognizing what I can and cannot do, and getting a lot of help. So awesome. I have help with my children, I have help with the house, I have help with the business, I have help in all of these different areas, because there's just no possible way that I would be able to live by whatever standards I thought that I should be living by from a mothering housekeeper right? I just really had to depart from that and honor that and recognize that that's just, I want to take a step in this direction and get some help. So that has helped with the balance. But then from holistically, for me, it's really been an exploration into my spiritual side of things, meditating, really making sure I'm taking care of my diet and all of exercise, all of those types of things on a consistent basis. In the mornings, making a really good morning routine.
Are you what part of the 5 a.m. club?
Yep. So, and I didn't ever think I would be. I'm like, that sounds lame. But now I'm just like, it's the best part of the day, right? So getting up and having that time
Your time and not somebody else's time.
That's right. That's right. So I've got my list. I make sure I achieve those things in the morning, and it really just kickstarts the day. And I'm already miles ahead from where I would have been had I just been rolled out of bed at 8 and tried to figure out. And I did do that for a long time. Don't get me wrong, especially in the early restaurant days. Maybe had a glass or two of wine, and things are different. But I was learning, right? But now there's just there are too many irons in the fire to do that. So absolutely. I've really reconciled that that's not the life I live anymore, and that is great, because I'm grateful for the time that I did do that, and now it's on to try to figure out basically how to maximize my own personal efficiency.
Absolutely,
to do it, right? So I'm certainly not a pro, but I'm practicing to see what works best for me.
Have you ever experienced burnout in your career so far?
Yes, I wouldn't say that I would be able to like diagnose it in particular, but I like.
You know,
there's no question that I've like hit a wall and not been able to get my head off the pillow and been like, what is this all for? And why am I doing this?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like it's really great to have goals and dreams and like this big picture. But realistically, if we don't build in those things that take care of ourselves, you know, it's just not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So yes, definitely. More than once.
You may have already hit on this, but how do you overcome it? How do you avoid it? Is maybe a better question.
I really think it's just like a daily balance thing. And when I'm finding that I'm getting to that that point of not really being able to manage, really just taking a step back and taking stock and reminding myself like what this is all for. You know, what am I trying to accomplish here? Because ultimately I want to leave a positive impact. Like I want to just do good things and have a place for the community to come and like a safe space for people to enjoy themselves and love life. So if that's what I'm trying to achieve and I myself am not able to do that in the process, then I need to like take a step back.
Reset.
Exactly. Come to my campground.
Come to your little hidden
come to my little oasis
and
take a couple breaths because really like I find my balance in nature.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah.
So this was all the fun stuff, kind of where you got to now. Let's take us back to March 17th, 2020, when we got the news that I think I was sitting in your restaurant for lunch when the waitress said we're closing after you leave and no idea when we're going to reopen. I'm quite positive that was my last actual restaurant we went to. Walk me through how you handled it, how you navigated, what went through your head at that point in time? Because like you mentioned, you didn't have the golf course at that point in time. You were still in the thick of the restaurant, which was hit really hard at that point in time.
Yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah.
My first reaction was like complete fear. Yeah, totally. So it's funny that you were there. I was also there. Yeah. I remember being on the phone with an advisor. So another like backing up, having an advisor and helping out too. I have a business coach who helps me out with things. So I was on the phone with her, and she was saying, you know, like shutdowns are happening. It's coming, and it's not good. And like you may want to get ahead of this. So we kind of assessed what was going on and heard that the government was rolling shutdowns in other places in the country and just decided to be proactive. So on March 16th, we shut down right after lunch, right after lunch hour.
I'm pretty sure it was,
And I was completely in complete disbelief and really scared. So we were shut down for a month. I didn't feel comfortable having staff in. Like I didn't at that point.
Unknown, right?
Exactly, right? Not knowing was the biggest thing. So I was not comfortable asking people to do something that I wasn't comfortable doing, and I was just like, you know what? Restaurants can wait for another day. So a month later, we reopened for takeout and have remained open since. Really just like riding the waves of
open, closed,
open,
up, down,
closed, not who knows. But it has not. The early stages weren't easy, and honestly, even I would say until like February, March, the opening, closing, like that cycle of trying to ramp up a business and then shut everything down again.
Exactly.
And with only a couple days notice.
Yeah, and I think a lot about that industry and wonder how the hell do they deal with inventory?
You throw a lot of stuff out.
Like how else would you do it? Because
I mean, you could donate things, but again, it's just not like it's just not a practical.
100%.
It's not practical. So there's no good way. It's been very disjointed and like throwing away lots of money and all of those types of things. But I don't. What is the other way?
That's
you know,
right.
like I'm sure there is. I know there is a different way, but given all of the circumstances, this is what we've been dealing with.
And that's, you do the best with what you have to work with. And there's no right or wrong answer, is what I think we found kind of going through this.
But what I've come back to is really the only thing I can control is my reaction to it, right? So when I am able to like be more centered, and I think that's the thing that I've learned the most over the last year with the externalities of the COVID stuff. Like again, the shutdowns are really super disruptive to a business, right? Because you're operating a business, everything is great, and then the government is like, actually, no, you can't do that.
Just
and
kidding.
Just kidding.
No,
you can't. Actually, all that stuff you made on Thursday for Saturday, throw it all away. That kind of stuff, right? But it's in the moment then deciding how I'm going to react, because kind of going back to what I said earlier about the team, they rely on me to be a good positive influence. So if I'm like so frustrated and angry at the government for whatever, that's not,
it's not helpful.
It's not helpful. So I need to like feel my
Lock
feels,
yourself in the freezer.
Go exactly, go to the freezer, calm down, and then and then reemerge a better person.
Absolutely.
So
you touched on mentors. How important were they during the pandemic for you? I know me personally, I have a laundry list of mentors and coaches I've worked with over the years, and I would think I was talking to them each and every day throughout this to help kind of use it as a sounding board more than anything of figuring out the next move. How important are they during COVID and even as a business owner in general?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
They really help you find your blind spots.
Yeah.
You know, because you, when you're in your business, working in or on, like whatever stage you're at, you really do get blinders on because things are operating a certain way and it's going well and it's fine, right? But there are always areas for improvement. There are always areas in every spot that you can reassess. So I really appreciate mentors in that capacity to really just point out, like, hey, have you thought of it this way? Have you thought of it that way?
Turning decades into days is the concept I've been.
Totally. And it certainly has accelerated the process, right? Because looking what's been happening around the golf course anyway in the last year, I'm completely I'm amazed. I know I'm a contributing factor to it, but I'm still in disbelief about it. And it really is this having an amazing team, having amazing advice and mentors, and just a really great support system.
For sure.
There's no other way.
Yeah. Now, you kind of had the unique ability to take advantage of an opportunity during COVID.
Yes.
You know, with what's going on, and you guys bought this business in the thick of it, April, you said, of 2020?
Yeah, so 6 weeks after shutdown.
So right at the peak of unknown, we don't know what's going to happen, if we're going to live or die or anything that's going to come of this, and you guys jumped on the opportunity to take on a new endeavor. That's refreshing. You don't hear that often of somebody that actually took advantage of this as an opportunity to grow and to succeed. And there was some, I think, dumb luck in a lot of industries, that the building industry and all that, everybody kind of cashed in because they're stuck at home. But how did that play into the decision-making process to jump in then and now and all that sort of stuff? It
was a time and a place, you know? So having expressed interest in it in the year before and not getting the golf course again, that was great. But when it came up and we were contacted by the realtor and saying, hey, this is coming back out, if you're interested, I actually just reached out and talked to the owner directly. Just spoke with the previous owner and said, listen, we don't know what's going on here. We definitely want, we think that we're the right people to have this place. But we have a bigger vision and we want to accomplish that. And we can do that together. But, we weren't expecting to take a golf course over in the middle of a pandemic when everything is so uncertain. So they were so agreeable and really wanted to work with us as far as making the transition as easy as possible. So that, to start it out, was very that was very helpful, right?
Promising.
So it was very promising. So they were there, they were supportive, they were great, and they were willing to work with us. So starting that way, and then being able to assess what it was that we were dealing with when we were able to open 3 weeks later, May 16th, 2020 is when golf courses were able to reopen. That's right. So we had it for 3 weeks, and it was like, okay, now open your golf course. And we found it on the Thursday for the Saturday, and we were like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. So we did it, and it was trial by fire. There was no planning.
Magic wand. You guys had this all prepped, A, B, C, D.
No, and honestly, and even every time we reopen, it's when we were closed, we do things we redid the parking lot when we were the last shutdown. We redid the parking lot, so that just changes the flow of the way we do things, because as an entrepreneur, I feel like one of the best things about being self-employed is that you can look at something and then be like, that's great, but it could be better.
Yeah, you're not stuck in the confines of somebody else's model or anything.
So, and that's great, really great and beneficial. And then also sometimes it's like, okay, just slow down. Just calm down.
Not every idea is a good one.
Right? That's a very valuable lesson to learn as well.
How do you flesh out the good and the bad?
I think the whole mentorship thing, really, testing things out and testing your ideas, asking for feedback. That's a big one for me, rather than just making a decision and saying, this is the way. Not really banking on any of those ideas as great ones until you run it by someone else.
Exactly. I give it a resting period now. I used to have an idea and we're running tomorrow, we're hiring, we're buying, we're doing whatever.
Yeah.
Now we let it sit for 4 or 5 days. Is it still as exciting on day 5 as it was day 1? And then maybe
that's a good idea.
If it's still exciting, well then let's maybe take some time and look into this.
But that's a really good idea. Yeah, because there are so many shiny objects.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so exciting,
Follow the bouncing
right?
ball, especially when you get a team involved. Then if you're going to take the entire ship and try to move it this way when they're already making good steam that way, it causes some headaches and frustration
exactly.
too. So.
And the self-awareness piece of knowing, like when you said, you're like, you know what, maybe I'm not the right person to be in this this managerial role. And that's really where I'm finding myself right now as well. Thinking, okay, like is me being here doing this role really the best thing for the business? Or is this better suited for someone else?
Or am I just getting in the way?
That's right, exactly. And because I'm the owner, people are too afraid to say something. They don't want to hurt my feelings. They don't want to get in trouble, whatever that is, even though we try to foster the environment where people feel where they can be heard. Not everybody's always going to feel that way.
It's a new concept too that most employees really can't grasp.
Exactly, exactly. So, and it's a new generation that we're dealing with as far as workforce, right? So, really, it's just like figuring out those components and being open to that. But yeah, definitely resting on ideas, I think, is a really good idea.
So, Jen, on the topic of success, how would you personally define success? This always gets everybody. I think it's really like a feeling. Success is an internal feeling. So it's really being, for me, I would feel like I've achieved a level of success if I can be at peace every day. If I can like wake up and recognize that all of these dreams, all of these different areas of my life are running smoothly, are interacting with each other smoothly, and I can really feel at peace and enjoy interacting with all of those things. Look forward to
Honestly,
it.
that would be success for me. The whole other side of things, like monetarily, like all of that, it's really great. But I really see money as a tool to be able to achieve these things that we want to achieve. Not so much as a
end goal.
And not a measure of success. So it's really just like it's an internal feeling.
Sure.
Yes.
It's a great answer for that. Yeah, it's a great thought.
Thanks.
What do you feel? What advice would you give to somebody starting out in terms of tools or skills they need to be successful?
I'd say a coach, honestly, would be one of the first things to get, especially if you're like in the startup mode, trying to figure out what exactly it is that you need to start a business, because there's so many different elements that are so important. And when you've got an idea, you've got a thing, your little baby that you want to grow into this thing that will eventually earn you an income, so you can continue to do things and hopefully, for me, achieve that level of peace. There's a lot to it, and having some support through that is essential. So growing up on the farm and growing up with self-employed parents, I really learned a lot of those skills young. So knowing how to hire people, knowing when to pay taxes, knowing when, just all of those things were always part of my life. So I have a really good handle on that, but I know
there's a lot of people that don't.
Right?
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to finance.
Exactly. And that it must be taken care of, right? So a lot of people have really fantastic ideas and the desire and all of that, but just that backside of support. And again, these are the blind spots, and this is what you should really be doing.
Absolutely. There's a concept I learned about with how everybody they're either an entrepreneur, a manager, or an artist. And we won't spend much time going into this because it's pretty deep in terms of just skill sets and mindsets and abilities and almost that self-awareness piece we're talking about there too. But what I see with a lot of new businesses, and we were in the same spot, financial. Like they don't get the idea that I have to collect HST and pay HST, for example. That's a thing that people need to learn to kind of get started. But I couldn't agree with you more though about the mentor stuff, the coaching and the mentor thing, and back to the concept of turning decades into days and learning from their mistakes so that you can avoid them moving forward. So
because the answers are all there, right?
Yeah.
And it's so unclear when you're in the middle of it and you're feeling passionate about things, you're so excited, and you just you're not going to think about it, right? It's not top of mind, but it's essential for the health of your business. So really just figuring those things out and then building that foundation so that you can figure out okay, what is it that I want to be doing with my life every day?
Yeah.
And what do I want to delegate to someone else?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been helpful.
The other thing to think about too when it comes to mentors and coaches, they don't necessarily need to be in the same industry or even geographic area as you are, because there's a lot of carryover and there's a lot of unique ideas that may work in agriculture that can be brought over to golf, for example, or hospitality, and kind of cross-pollinating between those things really generate some interesting results sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my business coach used to own a publishing company, and she lives in Alberta. So
there you go. There's a definition. Yeah,
exactly. But our personalities work really well,
exactly.
together, right?
That's
and that's
important.
key.
Yep. So on the topic of success, has there been, throughout your career so far, kind of defining moment or that one key time that you've been able to take a breath and realize, hey, I made it, or hey, I've achieved that goal that I was after?
So I would say after 5 years at the restaurant, that was when I had my first child, and taking a step back and really passing that baton over to a general manager and saying, okay, like, you got this, you've got
Taking
this.
off your operator hat, putting your owner hat on.
Exactly. And I really knew that was the only time, like, I knew that was going to be the only thing that tore me away from that business. I was like, it was my little baby before my actual first child came. I was really attached to it. So taking a step back and recognizing that it could run well without me, even better without me there, to be honest, and really then being able to sink into that piece, that was really great. Here, it's a place, like, now I'm really working towards it. So I recognize that I'm not, like,
in that growth stage again.
Exactly. I'm not there yet, but it's on the horizon of just figuring out who needs to be where, doing what, like, who do we need and what do we need them doing.
That's the fun part, though, isn't it? That climb, like, that's what I miss a little bit about where we are in our stage of the business, is that figuring that stuff out and being in the moment, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's a perspective shift in the moment that is so valuable, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can really be working through it and feeling like it's a grind and feeling like I would rather be doing anything else and that it was just figured out so I could just, like, go home and hang out with my kids.
Especially when you've tasted it once already,
exactly.
you know where to go. Yeah.
But I know it's there and it's so worthwhile. You know, I feel really good about what it is that we're doing. So it's built in there, like that element of the feeling of peace through it. But like, ultimately, there's just so much that needs to be done. And we're the ones that need to be making the decisions to do it. So until those things are figured out, it's going to be some time. But it's there. It's almost there.
So I'm going to flip it a little bit and talk about failure and how important that is. Has there been a defining moment or one key time when you really kind of hit that bottom, or you experienced a moment of failure that you were able to learn from or kind of persevere through?
Yeah. So, I would say a lot of that has come with the experience working with family. There have been so many really valuable learning experiences there, and trying to figure out how to really, like, balance that exactly. So when I was working with my family on the farm, it was good, but it didn't end the way that we thought it would, you know? And so I don't like to define it as a failure because I think there's so much learning there, but really in this capacity, I think that we could probably call it that. But definitely just recognizing the behaviors that were good and bad, being a little bit critical on myself and saying, okay, like, what is your responsibility here, and where are the opportunities to learn and learn how to react better, differently next time, you know, and just make different decisions. So, and then also being more critical about the decisions I'm making before I commit to something. You know, really thinking through those scenarios instead of being like, oh, it'll be fine, I've got this. No.
Especially when you start layering family on there, that's a whole different dynamic that I think a lot of people in business don't have to deal with, fortunately, unfortunately, but don't understand either. That, you know, that decision of having a blowout, punch them out sort of thing, that has a long tail with it in some cases.
Well, exactly, especially when you're talking about then having like a family get together, right? So if I'm being completely honest, there were a lot of family Christmases that weren't the most joyous occasions.
I can see that,
But now we're able, like, we've grown past that and worked it out, right? So having to go through those failures and those difficult times and have the conversations and not want to see each other and all of that, it was very painful. But it has definitely, like, the foundation again that has built to really, like, reinforce how great we are on our own. It's been so valuable, and I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not tried working with them. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for being so candid about that one.
Of course.
Most people don't answer that question, so that's a good one.
I've had I've had all sorts of failures. Like I think we all do, but there's just so many opportunities to learn through every time something doesn't go the way that you wanted it to go. Like that's fine. Like there's just so much gold there.
Instead of just letting it beat you up and drag you down, pick up and go. Like,
that's right.
I almost look for it in some cases. It's like, if I know this isn't going to work, but I know I'm going to learn a whole lot along the way, so I'm going to do it anyway. So
exactly. Yeah, it's the experience is worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Like I think that's what we're here for, right? Is just to experience life and see how it goes. I'm no professional at this. I'm just practicing every day.
Are there any opportunities that throughout the years that you may have missed and wished you took part in or jumped on? It sounds like you guys are bouncing and jumping on nearly every opportunity that's in front of you, and that's fantastic. But has there been any ones that you kind of missed out at?
There are always lots of opportunities presenting themselves. And so something that I learned that was very helpful a couple years ago is to discern between opportunities and distractions. And that's been really helpful because there are always so many demands, requests for attention. And really, I've recognized that my bandwidth is somewhat limited, right? Like I really only do so much. And I'd love to be open and give all that I have to all of the people, but I just can't do that because that'll leave me depleted.
What's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
So something that most recently that is sticking with me is don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm.
That's a good one. I don't think I've ever heard that one before. That's a good one.
So and it really resonates with me because there are so many requests, demands, all the time. So many things, right? And again, discerning between those opportunities and distractions and knowing what aligns for me. Very, very important. So that little one has really stuck with me to make sure that I'm doing things for the right reasons and not setting myself on fire for no good reason.
Now that kind of maybe jumps right into the next question is what sort of advice would you give for somebody looking to achieve long-term success?
Be very realistic about like what it is that you want to achieve and what it is that you want to accomplish, and be gentle with yourself. I think I've turned a corner when I did start on the self-awareness side of things, and self-love was really a big part of that.
I don't know many people that have crossed that line like you're saying there, and that's a good one to hear that you've gone that route. But
it's been incredibly important and very like it's the thing that I'm finding is really like propelling me now based on how I was operating before, the information I was using to make decisions and so on. I didn't have a clear picture. So, and I'm still learning, but that's definitely been huge. Self-awareness and then self-acceptance. So when you do make a mistake, when you do the wrong thing, when you say you make a bad impression and somebody and a customer's upset or whatever that is, because it's going to happen, knowing that it's okay.
That's right.
It's okay. Just there are so many ways through, and people I think inherently are loving and kind. So it's remembering that and getting to the core of that.
For sure. One concept that I've been looking at lately in terms of a kind of a direction or an achievement level is, as you're getting close to achieving the goals you've set out, set new ones, set bigger ones, because once you achieve that goal, you kind of start to lose some of that vigor and that drive, I think. So to keep kind of moving the goalposts, you know what I mean?
So. I totally agree. So I think, definitely looking forward, what's to come, knowing that we've got the golf course, there's so much opportunity here. I could probably just do this and that would be great. But definitely the plans for developing hotel and all of that type of thing, it's still there. As far as timelines, I'm not sure, but that's kind of what that looks like. And then hopefully just being a little bit calmer.
Maybe take a break.
Just take a little break.
If you had to start over tomorrow, you just follow the same path? Exactly, step for step?
No. I mean, having the perspective I have now, I don't think there would be, I couldn't possibly make the same decisions, but I wouldn't be where I am had I not. So I definitely, I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for all of those missteps, those embarrassing moments, those disappointment, whatever those negative things are, they're just there to help build.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm good with it,
Yeah.
and it's just part of the mosaic. So
Yeah.
and because of this radical self-love that I'm practicing, I'm just like, you're cool. So
You
you
just-
did
yeah.
so you embarrassed yourself.
No
so
big
you
deal.
whatever. It's
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
fine.
That's awesome. So where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from now?
So definitely investing more time with my children
Sure.
and into their education. So I've got a partner and we're working together to develop a school actually
Oh, wow.
for the kids. So a Montessori-based nature school is our concept. So
Yeah.
we're currently homeschooling with a teacher in
Sure.
our basement and practicing on our kids to
Yeah, yeah.
see like kind of
We'll screw
work
them
out
up
the
first
kinks.
and then- yeah.
Exactly. So work out the kinks there,
Yep.
and then hopefully September 2022 we'll be able to
Oh, wow.
open to
Here in town?
here in Petrolia.
Cool.
Yeah. Have other children from other
Good.
families join the school, and
Great.
yeah. So really like focusing on that in the short
Yeah.
term, and then
Yeah.
who knows what the future has to hold.
Yeah,
But definitely
yeah.
more like children,
You still got a
family
hotel
centric.
hanging out over here, don't
Yeah,
you?
definitely. So that'll be there. Like that's there,
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I really like that. It doesn't make sense to do it until the supplies,
Sure.
pricing evens
Yeah,
out a little bit more.
Yep,
So
yep, yep.
it's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching this that kind of wants to follow the same sort of trajectory or path or is inspired by your story, what's the best kind of advice you'd give them starting out?
I think really just asking yourself the questions like, what do I want? What do
Yeah.
I want to be doing with my life? Like, what is this balance that I'm trying to achieve? Like, how if I have the opportunity to make the decisions, like every decision in my life, as far as what my days are going to be like,
Yeah.
and like I have to choose what my schedule is. Nobody's telling me those things.
Yeah.
It's really like knowing yourself
Yeah.
and knowing what it is that you want, and then being able to make decisions from there. So figuring that out. Obviously, like if somebody's building a business, there's the whole component of making sure you're actually like you're doing your homework.
There's-
Whole the research,
Yeah.
making sure that you're knowing what it is that you're doing. That
Yep.
it's like the responsible side of things.
Sure.
But then for
Yeah.
yourself,
The goals,
really,
the expectations, that sort of thing.
yeah. It's been I didn't have that
Yeah.
starting out, but had I, it would have been a lot easier to use as a roadmap, because
Absolutely.
when you're in the thick of it, it's
Yeah.
really hard to be like, I know I had things I wanted to do, but I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so this is where having a coach has helped me so much, because she just keeps me accountable.
Yep.
She said, okay, here's your goals that you set a year ago. How are we coming up on them?
Yeah.
Let's talk about them.
That's
And
cool.
I'm always amazed to see that they're all accomplished.
Yeah.
Within I don't like I'm
You're
not
not
really
consciously
actively
doing-
thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but it's just that they're there, and
Yeah.
it's always there on the horizon. So
That's a really good one, especially for this time, because obviously during COVID, there's a lot of home-based businesses or people thinking they're going to start out in the entrepreneurship because they maybe had a passion for making hats or making
Yep.
stuff at home, but they're really not seeing the forest through the trees, or even trying to think about what do I actually want to achieve on this. So that's a great one of building that roadmap, building those clearly defined goals and expectations.
yeah, definitely. Because you're like ultimately, as an entrepreneur, like you are in charge
Yeah.
of steering your own ship,
Exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
it's up to you to figure out how
Yeah.
well, how efficiently, like what you want that to look like.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean you need to be working, 7 days a week, 20 hours a day,
Yeah,
right?
that hustle culture isn't.
Yeah, it's not
necessarily- Yeah.
no, maybe not the most healthy in the long term.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Jenna, at the end of every episode, we kind of stick to the same sort of rapid fire questions to get a little bit more insight
Okay.
into the way you think. So, number one, are you a morning person or a night hawk?
Morning person.
We covered that,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Are you like me though, that I start at 5 and then I'm asleep on the couch at 7?
No.
Oh, you got a lot more get up
Yeah,
and go.
my kids are to sleep by 7, so.
Usually my kids are to bed and I'm right behind them.
Oh, I
but-
wish, yeah.
Do you prefer to read the news on a device or in the paper?
I prefer not to read the news,
Oh.
to be honest.
Lately, I don't blame you.
Yeah. I used to read the news
Yeah.
on my device,
Yeah.
but I just don't have a palate for it anymore.
Yeah.
I honestly find that it makes my day worse.
I
So,
couldn't agree with you more.
lately, I just don't, yeah.
Your favorite social media platform?
And you know what? It's kind of the same thing. I'm not
Good
a
for you.
huge lover of
Yeah,
social media.
yeah.
So I
It's
find
a terrible, terrible place these days in some
yeah,
spots.
exactly. I find that I'm a worse person after
Yeah.
interacting with social media and the
Yeah.
news. So I've
Yeah.
just like put that boundary up and been like,
good.
I'll I'll use this, but if it's starting to use me, then
I will
we have
say
an issue.
when you do utilize it, you get attention lately with what you're doing out there, and it's great. Some of the letters and stuff you put out to.
Thank you.
And we won't go into too much detail there, but yeah, you do a great job with it. For
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you.
City life or country living?
Country living, definitely.
Figured that one. What's one thing that's on your bucket list?
Oh. Honestly,
checked a few
I feel
things
like
off, I
I'm living my bucket list. Yeah, I feel honestly, I'm sure there's something, but when I want to experience something, I don't want to put it off.
There you go.
You know, so yeah, I've been really fortunate to do all sorts of traveling and lots of really cool experiences. So on continuing with that, but I don't have a one thing. Like,
cool.
Just
that's a good thing.
Do it now.
Yeah, you're not waiting. Exactly.
Exactly.
Biggest pet peeve?
Oh, you know what my biggest pet peeve was growing up? It just came to me and continues to be because I have small children is when people chew with their mouth open. I know. Like my 5-year-old, right?
You're in the hospitality industry. Interesting.
Right? I know. Exactly. It's so funny. That was always my biggest pet peeve growing up was that. But it's such a silly one. And I'm actually, it's one of these things that I'm just like, work through. You're going to need to work through that one.
Favorite food that maybe ties into that?
Oh.
One that you can chew with your mouth closed.
Something, yeah, honestly, yeah. I'm a big fan of fresh fruits and veggies. I just really love fresh from the garden.
So you're not on the traditional, what I call entrepreneur diet, where we have a pile of coffee in the morning, no lunch, there's no time for lunch, a couple beers when you get home, and a huge dinner.
Something along those lines. I'm in the spirit of getting up early and trying to set my day up in a way for success. I have a shake in the morning. I try to have certain things to build, to front load my day.
Absolutely.
I drink a ton of coffee. There's no question. I don't usually eat lunch either. And usually the person who's helping with childcare, she's always saying have you eaten? Make sure. So this is why I eat tons of fruit and veggies because they're portable. So
I was on a heck of a roll for multiple years of either Godfather's Pizza or KFC every day for lunch. It took years off my life. I'm
Krabby
sure.
Joe's coconut shrimp also.
There you go.
If I'm being honest.
Plug.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Clean desk or messy?
Oh, no desk.
No
really
desk.
Lately. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I would prefer a clean desk, but I like to be able to be portable.
So I'm going to modify that question moving forward. Virtual desk or physical desk?
Yep. I would say I would like to have a virtual desk.
Yeah.
Yep. I currently have a physical desk and it's messy and it's not ideal. Yeah. But I think the virtual desk is where I'm headed. Yeah. Especially given that I'm hoping to lessen the workload in that capacity.
Yeah.
So
I gave up my office early on in COVID and been able to kind of float here, there, and set up shop, and it's nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Last question is, what song do you want played at your funeral?
Oh. That's a really I should have done my research here. You know, so it's funny because I seem to have missed out on a whole period of understanding pop culture and really. So I think this is maybe a result of growing up on a farm and really living that farming lifestyle of having chores to do all the time and really just focusing in on that. So I'm really bad with names of songs and artists and all sorts of things, and I know there's something, but to give you a true answer, it would, if I'm going back to my favorite artist as a teenager was Britney Spears.
Oh, there you go.
Right? So
excellent
maybe
role model.
right? I know, right? So people used to say I looked like her, so I think that's why I liked her so much. Cool. So we just for a throwback, let's say something by Britney.
Sure.
So my friends will like that one, but truly I couldn't tell you.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. Thanks for having us through your course, and this is our first Storytellers we've done outside too, and your own little piece of paradise back in here. So I appreciate it. Your story's been fantastic, and
thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. It's been great talking to you.